Welcome everyone to the 5th International Sketchnote Camp. Thank you, Anya, and your team with the International Sketchnote Camp organizers for inviting me to speak and open this event with some encouraging words to everyone. It's a great honor to speak with all of you who are in Szczecin and those who might be watching later from my home far away in Milwaukee. I wish I could be there with you, but of course, my hope is for coming back in 2023 to Europe or wherever the next International Sketchnote Camp happens. So I have 3 things that I want to talk about today. Number 1, to let you know that we are part of an amazing community, a great community, and we've all had a part in making this community. Number 2, I want you to think about trying new things in the face of resistance and the desire for safety. We all feel this, and I think it's important to keep trying in spite of it. And finally, the third point is life is too short. Don't wait to start. So let's get right into it with the first point. We're part of an amazing community, a great community that we've all helped create. It's a very special community, as you know, and if you're new to the sketchnoting community, it's likely that's the reason that you're here. But for those of you who have been in the community for a really long time, you know this is true as well. So the International Sketchnote Camp started back in 2017 in Hamburg, and it's continued now for 5 years. And that's through changes in venues every year, a complete handover from one team to a new team every time it happens in a location. And not to mention, little things like pandemics that we've made our way through. And probably more things too. So I asked myself, why does this event keep on happening year after year? And I think the reason why is that our community really cares for each other. The level of caring in this community is very special. And this just doesn't come around every day. This is something really, really special. And I think we need to appreciate this community. If you're not doing that, and I know that so many appreciate it, but I think you can tend to take it for granted. I know I do. And so I have to remind myself to realize how special and amazing this community is and to be thankful for it and make sure that I'm, investing my time and resources and energy into it. I believe that the part of the reason that the community has continued in the way it has is partially because when the community began, when all of us started gathering together, there were a couple of attitudes, 4 attitudes, in fact, that I think came from within all of us who began the community. And that was, we gladly welcome new people to the community, so it's an open community. We also share ideas openly, so we're not guarded about our ideas, we don't hide them, we give them away. We are always willing to help other people. And I think finally, we encourage others to keep going even through the tough times. I saw that through the pandemic and many other times. And I know each one of you has had a part in doing this in the community. And I'm so proud of you for doing this work because I know it's very hard work. So let me give some examples of when our community has done this kind of thing. Number 1, of course, Anya and her team there in Poland, making this event happen. I know there's lots of work that goes on behind the scenes. It's difficult work. Sleepless nights, long hours. Sometimes you wonder why you're doing it. But I think it's amazing that Anya and her team have put this event together, which is what I believe every year that I've gone to an International Sketchnote Camp. I'm just amazed by the people and how they make things happen. So I'm really proud of that. The Daily Doodle community. So this is on the Sketchnote Army Slack channel, which you can, of course, go to sketchnotearmy.com and find the Slack channel and sign up for free. Abishai Billigram is there every day posting a new prompt for people to doodle. And of course, the people that participate every day taking 20 seconds to draw what their interpretation of that word is. That's amazing to me that it just, again, continues to go forward. And I know that Abishai is probably the 5th or 6th person to take over this task, starting with Steve Silbert way in the beginning. So it's definitely community owned, and there's lots of community participation. I think of someone like Lai Chi, who is also on the Sketchnote Army Slack. She is just on top of everything happening in the visual thinking community. And you can guarantee that in the announcements channel, if she finds something, it will appear in that channel. So thank you, Live, for the work you do there and keeping us updated and all the cool stuff going on all over the world on the internet that we can attend. I think too about how our community supported Julia Nuka, the Ukrainian refugee, who I met briefly in Portugal, and was just a lovely person. Who at the time I didn't think about it, but it turns out that she was in Ukraine when the war began, and escaped to the United Kingdom, and is living there in the United Kingdom. And she brought her iPad along, but her iPad was getting more and more used. It was an old iPad. It was starting to break down on her, and she had no way of making money other than the iPad to do her visual work. So she asked on a GoFundMe for some help, and so many people stepped in and offered money to Julia so that she could buy a new iPad setup and then continue doing her work. That was just amazing. And then finally, ScotViz, the group in Scotland, creating a special event for Andy DeVale, who passed away in July, a remembrance meeting for those who knew him, who wanted to share their thoughts and grieve together. That was just a really touching example of the community making space for the rest of the community to come together. So, it's interesting because all this work has been done across time zones, across borders, across languages. And again, this doesn't happen in every community. This is something unique and special that we should be so thankful for. So again, please keep giving yourself to this community, because that is the engine that drives all of us. We are the community. We all do it together. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And we do it because it feels good. It feels good to have a place where you can invest yourself and know it's going to a great set of people, and it's going to be appreciated and welcomed. So my takeaway from this first point is that of all the things that I did years and years ago, starting this community, being part of starting this community, is one of the things I'm most proud of, because I think it just keeps perpetuating and going forward and giving back to me, but to so many people around the world. And that's definitely something to celebrate. So my second thought for today is to try new things in the face of resistance and with a desire for safety. I know that I feel both of these things, the resistance to try things that are new and that desire to stay safe. Well, if I do this, then it might be scary. Well, I think you have to move forward. And I think if you're listening, I'm here to encourage you to do the thing that you've been afraid to start working on. That the crazy idea that you think's just too nutty, or you think you're not the right person, you're not cut out for it, or the thing you think you're too old or too young for, or the idea that you don't have time for it. Yeah, that idea, the one that I just touched on that you're thinking about now, that's the idea that you need to get started with. So I'm going to tell you a little story and talk to you about how I faced a similar challenge 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I was charged with writing a book on sketchnoting. It turned out to be the Sketchnote Handbook, and that was 10 years ago. And the funny thing was, as I began this journey, this epic journey, I really felt like an imposter, even though I had been working for 5 years in the space, and I'd coined the term sketchnoting back when I was doing this work, and just felt like it was the right thing to call it. I still felt like this imposter. And I thought to myself, who am I to write a book about sketchnoting? I mean, I've got time in and I came up with the name, but maybe there's someone else who's better suited. But and I just didn't believe in myself. But I was really fortunate that Nikki McDonald, who was my editor on the book project, she believed in me right away. When she saw my background and the work that I'd done, she knew that I was the right person for the book. Even when I didn't believe in myself, she believed in me. And she wouldn't rest until I believed. And I think it took until I had the manuscript written that I then believed, like, I am the person that should be doing this work. Because I think gathering all these thoughts and ideas into a manuscript where you could see it all laid out made it really clear that that this was a task that I was really set out to do, and it was exactly the thing that I needed to do. And I just want to talk a little bit about some of the fears that I had before this, that before I really owned it and decided that I was the right person. My first thought was I was too old. I was 47 years old when I started working on the book, and I just thought I'm too old. Old people don't write books. It's all young people, right? Well, that's wrong. Um, it turns out that there are a lot of older people that write books, but more importantly, my previous 5 years of creating sketchnotes and exploring the space, coming up with a term that made sense to me, that seemed to really resonate with people, illustrating several books, some of which are bestsellers, and then a 10-year career in print design with production work, all prepared me for the work that I had to do with the book that I worked on. So I not only wrote the manuscript, but organized all the submissions and then did production, illustration, and design and handed the files to the printer. So unusual for authors to do that kind of work. But because I had this background and this experience, I was in a position where I could do all that work and really control what the book looked like and how it would work in reality. So I had complete control. And that was an amazing gift that I just didn't realize until after I was done being able to do that. So all that experience is the other side of age. Being older meant that I had lots of experience I could bring to the project. The second thought that I had, and I believed before I believed in myself, was that I don't have time. Like, where would I get time to do this book and create a 1-hour video companion? Because I had a day job, I had a young family, and I had a third son on the way. And I only had 9 months to do all this work. It was kind of crazy. Well, I was wrong again. It turns out that the company I worked for really believed in me and wanted me to write a book. And they made it I had a flexible job, and they made a way for me to kind of back down to just a few hours of work off every week so that I could work on the book during work time. And then, of course, that was not enough to really write a book. So I, of course, spent time at nights and on weekends producing the book, early mornings, late nights to get things done. But the amazing thing was it all got done. It got done in 9 months, which was amazing. We delivered and we met our deadlines. And then the last thought that I had was that I have to do this all by myself. I had the idea I was all alone and I had to do all the heavy lifting and all the work, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for that kind of commitment. Well, that turned out to be wrong as well. In reality, I had a great team of editors like Nikki and others. We had production people that would help me make sure that the artwork is done properly. I had a filmmaker friend that helped me shoot the 1-hour video. I had another friend who could help write the scripts for that video. I was never alone. I had a small team of people who were able to work with me and support me and help me make things happen. And that was amazing. That was one of the gifts that I learned from doing the book, was how much you can get done with just a small team of people. And here we are. It's almost the 10th birthday of the Sketchnote Handbook, which happens in November. It's now a bestseller. It's been translated into, I think, 6 languages, and it continues to sell to people today. So the takeaway from this point, number 2, is stop thinking you're too old or too young, that you don't have time, or you're all alone. Find one person in this amazing community that we have. Talk with them about this idea that you have and make it happen. Get started. Don't wait. Don't let the fear of resistance and the fear of safety hold you back from doing this work that you know you need to do. And my last point, which is the shortest one, is life is short. Don't wait to start. It's just a few weeks now that Andy DeVale, a friend of mine who was an acquaintance, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. He was only 48 years old, which was about a year older than I was when I wrote my book. And Andy had a huge impact on the visual thinking world because he was so intense and so helpful for the community in working with his 3 teammates to create ScotViz and then host visual thinkers of all kinds and bring them not only to the ScotViz community, but lots of other people who also attended those events. Just some really amazing events happened and now are part of the fabric of this visual thinking community, all because of the work that Andy did. Now, Andy, of course, is a reminder that life is short. We don't know when we might leave. And I think it's really important that we invest our time in important things and we spend it with important people, because life is brief. time is swift. There's no replay or rewind. It's a limited time to make an impact. So we need to make the best of it and not take it for granted. So again, stop worrying about being the right person and go do the work. You're the right person. Stop worrying about being too old or too young. You have experience or you have opportunity to try new things and explore new spaces. Stop thinking you don't have time. You have to reserve the time and make a decision about the time, and maybe you can't do something else. And finally, you don't have to do it alone. We have an amazing community who will help you get the work done. So talk to someone and work with a partner. Find someone who can encourage you to start a new thing, to kick off that new project, to attend an event, to create something new, because again, our lives are so very short and we need to take advantage of every moment that we have with each other. So thank you so much for being with us today. I think, again, this community is the most amazing thing that I think we make together on top of the sketch notes that we create. It's the community that we make and that we get to enjoy every single day. And I think it's important that we pay it forward so that our kids and our grandkids can enjoy it just as much as we do. So thank you so much for coming and coming to the International Sketchnote Camp Year 5, and I'm excited for many years to come.